Well, he's the controller of the city of New York, and many people say he'll be a candidate for mayor in a few years. Doug, Turetsky, your office, the Independent Budget Office, was founded with the idea, excuse me, of taking politics out of the budgetary process. You guys don't have a political stake in your analysis. From you watching what he had to say, how do you evaluate it?
I think Controller Liu is correct in that balancing the budget is a series of trade-offs. There's only a limited number of options the mayor and the city council have, raising revenue or cutting services. I guess there's a third option, which is borrowing, but that's not really on the table, not on the table for the city for its operating expenditures. That's how we got into a lot of trouble in the 70s. Not a
that
place
became a no-no after the fiscal crisis.
So not a
of the
place
70s.
we can really, not a place we can really go back. That said, I mean, he talked about the audit he did of the EDC, about $125 million in questionable dollars that they're holding on to. That's about a tenth of the cuts the mayor has proposed. So that's another. We still got 9/10 of the way to go to balance things out. We've got the benefit right now still of a surplus in funds from the good times. After this year, that surplus is gone. So as tough as this year is looking, the fiscal year that begins on July 1st, 2011, 2012 could be even harder because we'll have no real surplus at the end of the year based on our projections. The federal stimulus money goes away, which is about $850 million. I think that's about 14,000 teachers. That's what's, to use an oft-used phrase with budgets, that's what's looming ahead.
But are we talking about, I'll come to Geri in a second, you know about the fiscal crisis of the 70s, and many people don't, especially of a certain age group. Is it possible that we will face something as severe as that crisis, which in turn had ramifications for at least a decade after it?
I don't think so. First of all, a fundamental difference, there's several fundamental differences. One is, back then, we didn't even know how bad things were. We didn't have a set of books that were clear. In fact, at the end of every fiscal year, the city has to do an audited financial report. They had to merge 2 years because they didn't have enough records to even know what was really going on at that point. We operate, as I mentioned before, we have to have a balanced budget. That came out of that. We can't borrow money for our day-to-day operating expenditures. We do 4-year financial planning. So when we pass a budget, we also do. The mayor presents a financial plan for the next 4 years. It gets modified every quarter. So there's warning signals of what's maybe lying ahead, so you can start taking actions. It's a very different landscape. Doesn't mean it's not a difficult landscape, but it's a different one. But it's a different landscape.